use headphones for best experience. Thanks for your fantastic support. First, let me show you that there are a lot of new content now on Spotify, Apple Music and other audio streaming platforms. If you want to listen audio only to my content, so type in ASMRctica, ASMR, and you will find all the albums there. Hi, welcome to another video. Today I would like to show you this collection of first day covers with some stamps, postage stamps on them. I found these quite recently on a second-hand shop collection of these types of letters, and I thought it might be a good idea to include them in a video. And all these are from the year 1976, so the Swedish Mail issued these every time they issued a new postage stamp. They made these envelopes, these cancellations, and included all the new stamps. I think it could be a nice series of videos, and also it will probably be quite suitable for my audio content as well, because you can find my content also on music streaming platforms and where you can find podcasts. So if you search for ASMRctica on Apple Music, Apple Podcasts or Spotify or other platforms, you can find some audio material that I'm recording exclusively for audio. So, like this one. This will be a 3-episode series about closed railways in Sweden. And this type of video that I'm gonna start to record now, also I think it could be a nice series. I'm sorry if I tell you quite often that I will start a new series, and then after all you can only find one episode, the first one, and I'm starting a new series. But yeah, sometime there will be a point when I'm gonna continue recording, I guess, when I get the right idea to finish a series. So today we're gonna take a look at these first day covers issued in 1976. So there could be one episode for each year, was my idea. And we're gonna zoom in quite a lot in this video. So here you can see that the first postage stamp issued in 1976 was the one with the portrait of the King of Sweden, the monarch, Carl Gustaf, Carl the 16th Gustaf. And He was crowned in 1973, so this was in 1974 the first stamps of this type, with this portrait, were issued, so this is the third year. And the postage rate had been risen from, I think, 75 öre in 1974. Öre is the smaller currency or unit of the Swedish currency. There are 100 öre in 1 Swedish crown. This is 1 crown. So this was the first time when the standard postage rate reached 1 crown. Before this stamp there was like 75 öre, 90 öre. So 1 crown was now the postage rate for a standard letter, a very light letter like this. And this is 1 crown and 30 öre. And that was the rate for international mail. If you wanted to send a small letter like this abroad. So that's why they issued these new denominations, 1 crown, 1 and 30. On the cancellation here, it says Utgivningsdagen, day of issue, Stockholm, January 27th, 1976. And here you can see the cancellation clearly without anything underneath. And I don't know exactly why there are two. I think they wanted to show you all variations. So here you can see the perforation is on 3 sides, top here on the very top, and here on the very bottom, and on the right side for this one, and on the left side for this one, and no perforation on those sides, because they were probably in a booklet like this. So then when you got these first day covers, I guess you should have all the variants that were available. So that's why you have these 2, and here you only have 1, because here the perforation is only to the right and to the left. So these stamps were probably issued in a coil like this, one after the other, and these were issued in a booklet. But let's open this letter and see. There is some information here. You can read about this particular stamp, and it's also in different languages, so I think it would be nice to read it in English. Carl XVI Gustaf, on January 27th, 1976, the Swedish Postal Administration issued 2 stamps in the values of 1 crown, booklets, issued in coils April 29th, 1974, and 130 coils with a portrait of King Carl XVI Gustaf. Design, engraver. The stamps have been printed in recess at the post office stamp printing works. So yeah, it was steel engraving recess for most of the stamps at this point during this time. And on the cancellation here you can also see the king's monogram, or one variation of the monogram. On the coins, the crown coins from this time, it looks a bit different. So this, I guess there were two types of monograms. You can find the C and the G here, and 16 written in Roman numbers, and the crown. So yeah, the green one was 130, and the new red-brown one was 1 crown. And the next postage stamp is from Västerås. I can show you on a map where Västerås is. This is the atlas, course atlas over Sweden. It's from 1928. I think it's a really beautiful atlas. And Stockholm is here, and Västerås is here. There, I think it says Västerås. So not too far from Stockholm. And this is the cathedral in Västerås. Cathedral built in 1271. So it's a really old church, cathedral. And the title of this stamp is Vindarnas grotta, the Cave of the Winds. The Cave of the Winds is this sculpture in front of the town hall in Västerås. So this must be the town hall, modern building. And the sculpture is made by Grate, or no, Grate, probably. Grate. I don't know how to pronounce the name. Grate. Let's see what it says about this stamp and this sculpture. Yeah, here it says issued January 27th, 1976. And the face value is 1 crown and 90 öre. I'm not gonna go through all the names for the artist and photographer and engraver, things like this, because it's so many names. But you can see it here. Die Grotte der Winde. this was a booklet like this. The Cave of the Winds. Erik Grate, born 1896, lived in Munich in the early 1920s, where he chiefly worked as a painter. Then followed travels to Italy and Greece, where he studied insects, plant fragments, and details of antique architecture, sculpture, and ceramics. From 1924 to 1934, Erik Grate lived in Paris, where he was in contact with the surrealists and the sculptors Despio, I don't know how to pronounce this, Mayol and Brancusi. The Cave of the Winds stands in front of the town hall of Västerås. The building has a clock tower, and the facade consists of upright rectangles. Originally, Grate made a soft play with curves and round forms in the facade, drawing as a contrast to the building. Gradually, the sail of the cave emerged, a kind of echo grotto resembling a cockle shell. A listening woman faces the sail, who is also Nike at the stem of her ship. To the left of the cave sail there is an egg-shaped form, where the surface dissolves into bowls. The egg is a focus for the winds. The sculpture The Cave of the Winds is a picture of listening, but also of the sea and the winds and the cycle of life. So here you can see the sculpture as described in the letter. The sail and the other parts here. Next letter and next cover is about these birds. Alkfåglar. Auks. I think you pronounce it Auks. A-U-K-S. Auks. And they're standing on a stone in the sea at the island Stora Karlsö, outside Gotland in Sweden. Let's take a quick look at the map. So here's the biggest island in Sweden, Gotland, very historical island, with Visby, the biggest city, a medieval town with a well-preserved wall, medieval wall. And here, outside the southwestern coast of Gotland, we have Lilla, the small, and Stora, Greater Karlsö. And Stora Karlsö is a nature reserve, probably Lilla Karlsö as well. It's been a nature reserve for a very long time, and a big nature reserve with a very rich bird life. And there are two types of auks here, that you can see on this picture. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 razor bills, or tordmular in Swedish, and 1 guillemot, or something like that, like a French word. In Swedish it's called sillgrisla. And the cancellation picture depicts an egg. And the special thing with the auks eggs are that they are shaped like a pear. See, like a drop. And actually it's very clever to have them designed like this, shaped like this, because they live in very steep cliffs, these birds, and very easily their eggs start to roll, and they would very often fall from the high cliff and break if it wasn't for this special shape that make them roll in like an arc. So they start to roll in one direction and then they go back. And that's why they can have their eggs in that type of environment. Let's see what it says in the letter about the auks. Alken in German. Alcides in French. Auks. And the day of issue is March 10th, 1976. The value is 85 öre. Auks. The auks are marine birds that have indeed specialized in diving. They have a bobbin-shaped body, legs set far back, and short, sharp wings, which can also be used for underwater swimming. They dive from the surface, catching small fish in their beaks. The greatest concentration of auks in Sweden is found on 2 bird islands in the Baltic Sea, Stora and Lilla Karlsö, off the west coast of the island of Gotland. Tens of thousands of guillemots, uria, algae, can be seen sitting in rows on the narrow ledges of the rocks. The guillemot is the only Swedish bird that breeds standing up, and the egg is adapted to the risky breeding environment. Because it is pear-shaped, it will twirl round the narrow end instead of rolling down, if it gets a push. The razorbill, Alca torta, breeds in smaller colonies on other islands as well, along the east coast of Sweden, often under big boulders. As can be seen in the stamp, guillemots and razorbills are very much alike, but the razorbill's beak is higher and not as sharp as a guillemot's. The stamp shows 1 guillemot and 5 razorbills on Stora Karlsö in the Baltic Sea. See the difference with the beaks. The head here, the guillemot, a bit different than the razorbills here. The perforation is here as well, designed for a booklet, I guess. So we have one variation with 3 perforated sides, with the not perforated side to the left, and here it's to the right. And here's a variation with only 2 perforated sides, probably from a cord. Next stamp is called Knipplerska. And it's translated to Bobbin lace maker. It's a traditional handicraft, I guess, making these types of textile work. And it's cancelled in Vadstena, March 10th, 1976. And on the cancellation you can see it's depicting the tool, I guess, used when you do these types of handicraft, lace making. And outside the window you can see that this is in Vadstena town in Sweden, because it should show the abbey in Vadstena from 1430 and the monastery in Vadstena as well. So these are really old buildings, and the abbey and monastery from Vadstena are very famous. So tourist attractions. And the value is 1 crown. It's the same as the standard postage rate by this time. So I guess this stamp was also very common. If you were collecting stamps, you would probably have a lot of these. I will show you the location for Vadstena on the map. Here by the lake this is Vänern. Here by the lake Vättern. It should be somewhere. It's the second biggest lake in Sweden. Vänern is the biggest. So it should be in Östergötlands län. Province Östergötland, you can see here, and here is Vadstena. I think you pronounce it Vadstena, even though it's spelled Vadstena. And let's see what it says about Knipplerskan from Vadstena. Knipplerska in Swedish. Klöpplerin in German. Tantelier in French. Bobbin lace maker. Here's some information about facts, credits. Bobbin lace making in Sweden is considered to have originated in Vadstena, in the province of Östergötland. Previously, it was believed that bobbin lace existed as far back as in the 14th century in the cloister of St. Birgitta. Today, historians agree that bobbin lace making cannot be traced further back in Vadstena than to the middle of the 17th century. What the lace of that period looked like is uncertain, but the lace today can be traced back to the Dutch weavers who came to Vadstena in the 1760s. They made a fine, strong thread, which improved the quality of the lace. Before this period, only coarser materials were available. Bobbin lace making is still a living tradition in Vadstena, though the high point was at the end of the 19th century, when the Dutch-born Queen Lovisa, the wife of Karl XV, was the patron of Vadstena lace. As a result, the interest in bobbin lace making grew, and today it is preserved as craft and art by organizations and private people. The stamp shows a girl making bobbin lace in Vadstena. The monastery church and the monastery can be seen in the background. So here you can see it again, the monastery outside the window. The next stamp, that's the title, The Telephone 100 Years, or the centenary of the telephone. And the telephone was invented by A.G. Bell in 1876. So yeah, 1976, it was time for the Centenary. And here you can see pictures of quite old telephones. These old types of rotary phones, the receiver, also parts of even older models, I guess. And this picture on the cancellation look really old. I can't even see how it would work. Or is it just the handle or something? I can't imagine that this is a telephone, but probably it's one of the oldest models. And the issue date is March 10th, 1976. Here you can see the cancellation on its own. And two values, 130. That was the standard for international mail at this point. And also 340. Bigger value. Now let's read about the telephone. Here are the basic facts and credits. Telefonen 100 år. Hundred, do you say like that in German? 100 Jahre telefon. Centenary du téléphone. The telephone 100 years. The inventor of the telephone, Alexander Graham Bell, 1847 to 1922, was born in Scotland but moved to Canada in 1870. A few years later he moved to the USA, where he settled in Boston as a teacher of deaf mutes. In 1873 he became professor of vocal physiology at Boston University. It was in his work for the deaf that he invented the telephone. The 10th of March 1876 is a historic date for human communications. Then the first words even uttered on the telephone was transmitted to a listener somewhere else. The words were, "Mr. Watson, come here, I want you." Watson was Bell's colleague. The reason for this sentence, which was completely spontaneous, was that Bell had happened to knock over a vessel with sulfuric acid, which ran out over his trousers. The damage was forgotten when Watson came rushing into the room saying that he had heard every word that Bell had said. As early as in the summer of 1877, the telephone was demonstrated in Sweden. The first telephone wire was drawn in Stockholm in December 1877, and in 1880 the number of lines was so great that the telephone exchange was open. Today the total number of telephones in Sweden is 5.3 million. The number of telephones for every 100 inhabitants is roughly 64, putting Sweden in the second place in the world telephone statistics after the USA which has 66. I don't think this statistic is right today. It was very interesting information. I hadn't heard about this. That it was in his work for the deaf that the first words were these: Mr. Watson, come here, I want you. It's fun to read. So that was the telephone 100 years. Next we have Svensk frökontroll 100 år. Another centenary. The centenary of Swedish seed testing. So they're testing and controlling the quality, or I guess, of seeds growing. Here with a magnifying glass. And these are the typical grains. I should be able to tell you these names in English, but I'm not sure. Yeah, it's a cereal grains: wheat, oats, rye and barley. This is oats. This must be the other three. Barley, probably this one. Rye, maybe this one. Wheat. Not sure, actually. I've forgotten, but oats looks very different from the other three. Two different images here. The value is the same, 65 öre. It's a small value, quite small. So it depicts the seeds of wheat here. And here it's the sprouts and the complete seeding of bean. I guess it's this one. I'm not sure. Sprouts, complete seeding of bean. Let's see if we can read something about this. Swedish saatgutkontrolle 100 år. Centenary du contrôle suédois des semences. Svensk frökontroll 100 år. The Swedish seed testing centenary. And here basic facts, credits about this stamp. Date of issue May 3rd, 1976. The Swedish seed testing centenary. Swedish seed testing started in 1876 in the province of Halland. I should show you Halland as well. Here you can see province Halland between Gothenburg and Malmö, roughly, or Skåne, along the western coast. The object was to inspect the seed trade and the seed produced within the country. 7 years before, the first laboratory for seed testing had been established in Germany. From the point of view of domestic economy, seed testing means that the individual farmer lays the foundation for better quality and a greater yield of grain. It is important that the seeds are viable, healthy and pure. Modern seed testing laboratories also give advice and information about seeds. The international contacts are vital in this respect. Nordic cooperation in this field began as early as in the 1880s, and the cooperation is today worldwide. The International Seed Testing Association, ISTA, was formed in 1924 in England. Today the organization comprises 55 countries all over the world. This stamp issue stresses the most important aspects of seed analysis. One stamp shows wheat seed enlarged with a mixture of cornflower seed, Centenary cyanus. The other stamp shows the viability of normal plants compared with non-viable ones. What's viable, non-viable ones? Icke livsdugliga. So that was the seed testing stamps. Next we have these two stamps. As you can see, it's not steel engraving recess this time. This is a multicolored print, so it's half-tone recess print. Another type of printing process, you can add more colors. And it also says Europa here. Europa. So this is actually this year's Europa CEPT stamps. It's a collaboration between the postal service, I guess, around Europe, and they issue stamps in the same theme. So each country who wants to participate make these motifs around the same theme. So this year's theme, 1976, was the Arts of Handicraft. And you can see the logotype of CEPT here. And the day of issue was May 3rd, 1976. Europa 76. Let's see, I can read a little about this from Wikipedia, and also so you can see what it means, what it stands for, the CEPT abbreviation. Yeah, so it's the European Conference of Postal and Telecommunications Administrations. So, Conference, European Postal Telecommunications. So the Europa postage stamp is an annual joint issue of stamps with a common design or theme by postal administrations of member countries of the European Communities, the European Conference of Postal and Telecommunications Administrations, and the Post Europe Association. And this started in the CEPT collaboration started in 1959, and Sweden didn't have stamps like this every year, but this year they had. I know in the 1960s there weren't so many Swedish stamps. I don't know the reason for that, but countries can join and be part of this for a year and not the next year, I guess. So here you can see an elkhorn spoon by P. Zachrisson in 1860. So it's a Sami handicraft. This one is depicting. And this one is a tile stove from 1775 that you can find in Sturehov Castle, south of Stockholm. It's made by the faience factory Marieberg. And I can show you on the map where you find Sturehov Castle. So it's here is Stockholm, so we have to take a closer look. Here's the province south of Stockholm, Södermanland. And yeah, I think it should be here somewhere. Sture. I can't see exactly what it says here. It's something with Sture, because I know it should be here, close to Rönninge. There is actually an even closer map showing Stockholm area. Yeah, so Stockholm is here, outside the map. And here it is, Sturehov. Close to Vellinge, Södertälje. And the day is quite close to Europe Day. Europe Day is celebrated the May 9th since 1964, I think I read. So since 1960s, I guess these stamps were issued close to the Europa Day in May. Let's see what we can read about these stamps. We have the basic information here. Europa 76. I don't know how to say 76 in German. In French I used to know, but I have forgotten now. Europa 76. Europa stamps are issued by the member administrations of the CEPT, the European Postal and Telecommunications Administration, founded in 1959. Until 1973, the stamps all had the same motif, but from 1974 they have one common theme instead. This year it is handicraft. Lapp Spoon. Today I think you would say Sami spoon. And I will not use this old word. Traditional Sami craft is made of horn, bone, wood, roots, tin, ribbons or leather. The Sami ordered silver objects from other cultures, and the designs were given a Sami style. Horncraft was a work reserved for men only. The material is usually horn from a reindeer bull, but horn from elk is also suitable. The spoon of the stamp is made of elk horn. It was made by the reindeer owner Paul Zacharisson from the province of Jämtland in northern Sweden around 1862. Let me show you where Jämtland historical province is. So the Sami people culture is found a lot here in the mountains in the northwest. Or in the whole total north of Sweden. But here is Stockholm, and here we have Jämtland. Big, mountainous, beautiful province with nice lakes here, you can see. A lot of skiing, tourism. Tile stove. Tile stoves have existed in Europe since the Middle Ages, and according to archaeological finds in Sweden as well. 200 years ago, an especially efficient and fuel-saving type of tile stove was constructed in Sweden with smoke flues built into the stove and thus preserving the heat better. The stamp shows a tile stove from Sturehov mansion outside Stockholm. The stove was made by the China factory Marieberg, which during its short period of existence, 1758 to 1788, only made some 30 stoves. I'm not sure exactly where this Marieberg is located. It's a quite common name, so I guess there are many Mariebergs if you search for it on a map. But my guess is that it's quite close to Sturehov that I showed you. Next we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stamps on the theme Ångermanland. Here, there are so many stamps here, so you don't have the stamp shown on its own. But here you can see the coat of arms of this historical province. So it's not a political province, but yeah, it's historical and very well known. All the historical provinces are very well known, and you identify a lot in Sweden if you are from Ångermanland or if you are from Jämtland or other of these types of provinces that were used many hundred years ago. I mean, many hundred years ago they might have a political meaning, but for a very long time now they've only been historical. So the coat of arms is depicting 3 salmons, a fish that is quite common in the rivers here. Ångermanland is located in the north of Sweden, next to Jämtland actually, that I just showed you. So from Stockholm, I don't know why I always start here from Stockholm, maybe because that's where I am. But Ångermanland is here. Here you can see it, Ångermanland. So it's on the eastern coast, on the same latitude as Jämtland. And we have these rivers here with a lot of rapids. Ångermanälven. Ångermanälven is the main one here in Ångermanland. So the landscape is focusing a lot, or the motifs. If you are showing things from Ångermanland, you probably see a lot from Ångermanälven. Most of the population, I guess, are here, and all the factories, and then it's more like mountains and big forests here. Of course, along the coast also there are a lot of villages, towns. But we can also keep this map. We're probably gonna look at some places in Ångermanland now. This page is showing it more in detail. The entire province. Härnösand, the biggest city, with the cathedral and everything like that is located. So we have one stamp should be depicting a view from Ringhallen, Nordingrå. I think it must be this one. This is a view picture. So you can see the forest here and the very steep slope down to the water, the river. Or actually, this one is showing the sea, because Nordingrå is located to the east. Let's see, Here's Härnösand, here is Kramfors, and here is Nordingrå. So it's by the coast actually. So this is the Gulf of Bobbin, you can see here. And then we should have a stamp showing timber Towing Tug. Must be this one. So timber, were a lot of timber in these areas and is still industry, and they used to transport it like this on tugboats, collecting all the timber like this over in the rivers, used for transportations. Then we have a large hay fence in Översel. So this is the old way of letting hay dry in the summer without getting wasted or destroyed by moist. So yeah, you had to put all the hay like this in a standing position so the sun could dry it. And the location for this is Översel. And Översel is Selsjön. I think Översel should be here. Actually, yeah. There is a small map here showing Ådalen between Härnösand and Sollefteå. But I think Översel is even more to the north, so I couldn't use this map in this case. I'm not sure, it's very difficult to read this map because the scale is so small. They choose to show Norrland in a much smaller scale, so everything is very blurry. But Översel should be here somewhere, and maybe it's not mentioned on this map. If you see it, that's great. And then we have Granvågsnipan at Ångermanland. So it's this one. The nipa is an old Swedish word for these very steep slopes in northern Sweden, typical for northern Sweden. The steep slopes down to the river. So all the rivers in northern Sweden have these characteristics, or not all of them, maybe, but many of them. So here you can see a really steep slope here. Granvågsnipan. And Granvåg should be here also, close to Sollefteå. I think. But I can't find it on the map. Can you find it here somewhere? think it should be just north of Sollefteå. Here somewhere. The last one here is showing seine net fishing. Probably they're fishing salmons in the Ångermanland here. The value for all these were 85 öre. Now let's read what it says about Ångermanland. Here you can see who took the photos and everything. The scenery of the province of Ångermanland is in central Sweden, shows great variations. The inland parts are dominated by majestic, solemn forests, here and there brightened by many lakes and farmed valleys. The big river of Ångermanälven is a life-giving vein, an important timber route, a great power producer, and it is rich in fish. The coast of Ångermanland is the highest around the Baltic Sea, and it climbs to heights of nearly 300 meters. A view from Ringkallen, a painting by Helmer Oslund, shows the magnificent landscape along the coast. Tugboats with timber in tow can still be seen along the coast. The old hay-drying racks, characteristic of the north of Sweden, are used less and less. This type was first used in the early 18th century, and the peak period was between 1850 and 1900. It is mainly barley that is dried in this way. I thought it was just hay. Barley as well. A typical feature of the landscape is the many steep slopes down to the water. The stamp shows Granvågsnipan by the river Ångermanälven. There is still seen fishing in the lower reaches of the river, but the haul of e.g. salmon has decreased every year owing to the new power plants. Next we have two stamps with on the same theme. Maybe that's why they are here on the same envelope. It's about Gothenburg in the southwest of Sweden. So this one is showing the centenary of Seamen's church. And this one is showing Torgny Segerstedt. And let's see, Torgny Segerstedt was the editor-in-chief for GHT. GHT, it's the Göteborgs Handels- och Sjöfartstidning, the newspaper for Gothenburg's trade and shipping. So this is a picture in the background from an issue of that paper from 1917. This one is showing a ship's wheel and a Latin cross in combination, because it's a Seamen's church should represent. And the cancellation is showing 3 birds, seabirds, and it's cancelled in Gothenburg, June 19th, 1976. And these birds are probably Arctic terns. Silvertärna in Swedish, probably, because they have this black head. So they're not like seagulls or anything like that, I think. And let's read about these 2 stamps, see what it says. Here we have some basic information in German. Jubiläen 100 Jahre schwedische Seemansmission. Timbre post commémoratifs Centenaire de l'Église des Marins Suédoise. Commemorative stamps. The Centenary of the Swedish Seamen's Church. In 1876, the Church of Sweden sent 2 chaplains abroad to work among Swedish seamen. They went to 2 ports, which were very important for Swedish shipping at the time: Kiel in Germany and West Hartlepool in England. Over the years, the activities have developed, and there are now 37 Swedish Seamen's chapels all over the world. The Seamen's Church offers Swedish seamen and other Swedes abroad the various services provided by the Swedish Church. People gather to worship in the chapels far away from home. The stamp motif shows a Roman cross behind the wheel of a ship. Torgny Segerstedt. Torgny Segerstedt, 1876 to 1945. Okay, so he was born the same year as this church started. So that's the centenary also for this stamp. Was for nearly 30 years until his death the chief editor of the Gothenburg Handels- och Sjöfartstidning, in its day the most respected newspaper in Sweden outside Stockholm. Segerstedt and the paper both attracted attention abroad during the Hitler era for his passionate and dogged fight against Nazism in the columns of the paper. The stamp motif shows a portrait of Torgny Segerstedt with the first copy, June 1917, of the Gothenburg's Handels- och Sjöfartstidning with Segerstedt as the chief editor in the background. Next we have the royal wedding. The June 19th, 1976 was the day of the wedding between the Swedish monarch and king Carl XVI Gustaf and Queen Sylvia. So there were two types of stamps issued this date. One crown, this red one. Also you can see two variations with the perforation. This is from a coil probably, with only two sides perforated. And this is from a booklet, with the perforation on three sides, with the left or right not perforated. The green one looks like it's only in coils. Kungabröllop, it means royal wedding. The value for this one I can't really see because it's hidden under the cancellation. I think it says 130. So these were probably quite common stamps because 1 crown was a standard postage rate for small letters in Sweden, and this for abroad. Now let's read about Kungabröllop, royal wedding. Königliche Hochzeit, Mariage Royal. On 19 June 1976, the Swedish Postal Administration issues 2 commemorative stamps on account of the wedding between King Carl XVI Gustaf and Miss Sylvia Sommerlot. The values are 1 crown and 130. Here are some information and credits. Next we have a bronze brooch, pilgrim badge, drinking horn, and chimney sweep. So 4 different stamps on this envelope. So these are very historical items. A coiled snake brooch from the 7th century, from Loupe in Uppland. Uppland is this province here. By the way, I forgot to show you Gothenburg. It's here on the west coast. A very important port. A lot of ships here in the past. Loupe, I think it's this one, so it's very close to Stockholm. It's almost in the Stockholm area. So this nice brooch was found there. And this one is depicting 3 wise men and Saint Mary with Jesus child. I can see maybe 3 wise men here, but it's so small, so tiny. Or maybe here actually 3 wise men, and this should be Mary. And a child here somewhere, I'm not sure. This pilgrim badge from about 1200 is found in Gamla Lödöse. Lödöse is located quite close to Gothenburg. I'll show you the page for Gothenburg here. Gothenburg. Here's Trollhättan and the lake Vänern, the biggest lake in Sweden. And Lödöse should be here somewhere. But I can't see it now. Not sure if it's here on the map or if it's too small. Let me know if you find it. And then we have a drinking horn of hardwood from about 1300. So these are quite small denominations, 20 öre, 15 öre and 30 öre. And this one is 90 öre. Showing Master Sweep J. Solén on the roof of Hotel Knaust in Sundsvall. And Sundsvall is close to Ångermanland. It's here. You know, we were here and here before on the map, but this is in Medelpad region, province, by the coast, Sundsvall. Let's read a bit about these stamps. A lot of information about these. Who had made these? Neue Briefmarken, it only says here. Nouveau timbre post. Nya bruksfrimärken. So it's bruksfrimärken is probably stamps that are printed in a lot big quantity, really made for being used, not the first purpose being collectible items maybe. New stamps. Bronze brooch. The stamp motif is a bronze brooch from around 600 AD. This brooch was found in a grave in the province of Uppland. The coiled snake is characteristic of the motifs in the Scandinavian artisans in the early Vendel period. Yeah, I found this so interesting, the Vendel period. It was before the Viking Age. We don't know much about this time. there are no written sources or anything. The Beowulf poem is probably from this time. That's one of the very few sources. Other animals often used ornamentally were boars, birds, horses, and wolves or dogs. Pilgrim badge. Pilgrim badges of tin or lead were sold to pilgrims in the Middle Ages as a sign that they had visited a holy place. They were worn on the dress or the hat. The stamp shows such a badge made in Cologne with the Magi adoring the infant Jesus sitting on Mary's knee. That's interesting with pilgrim badges. I just read about some type of pilgrim notebooks, where I heard from a friend that you can get pilgrim notebooks when you are traveling or when you are hiking on the famous pilgrim routes. You can just stop on hotels and get like a stamp, like a proof that you've been there, like a passport. It's also interesting. Drinking horn. During excavations of graves from the 1st centuries AD, ornaments for drinking horns have been found, which shows that they were already at that time drinking out of horns in the northern countries. In the 13th and 14th centuries, it became popular in rich circles to drink from horns with silver or bronze ornaments. Drinking horns were also carved in wood. The stamp motif shows such a horn from the early 14th century. Chimney sweep. The stamp shows a chimney sweep at work with weight and brush. He is wearing a top hat that of old has been a trademark in Denmark and on the continent, and which has lately been taken up in Sweden. Today the chimney sweeps work from the roofs, but they used to creep through the flues. So there were no information about that person J. Solén in Sundsvall. I don't know where that information came from, but I was reading that in another source, that this should be in Sundsvall. By the way, I should use this Loupe. Then we can probably see more details from some of the very tiny motifs. So there's a face. Let's see. We should have the 3 wise men on this stamp. 1. They look a bit spooky. 2. Oh, there's the 3rd one. 1, 2, 3 wise men. An arm. Symbolizes that they are carrying something. Now where's the arm? There. Saint Mary, probably. And Jesus Child. So yeah, there we have the 5 human faces. From this pilgrim badge from around 1200. Or what's here on the roof? Also face. Maybe God. Or an angel. Where is he? So the next stamp is this one. A wooden sculpture on white background. It's 9 crowns actually, quite a lot. High denomination. For large, heavy letters, packages probably. And it was issued in September 8th, 1976. And here you can see the signature of artist Bror Hjorth, famous Swedish artist sculpture, and he did sculptures and paintings as well. And this sculpture is called Girl's Head from 1922. Wood carving. And now I want to read a little about this carving. Some basic information here. Flickhuvud is the title in Swedish. Menschenkopf in German. Tête jeune fille in French. Girl's head. Bror Hjorth, 1894 to 1968, was a talented sculptor and painted with a very personal style. In the early 1920s, he studied with the French sculptor Antoine Bourdelle, and this period was of decisive importance for his artistic development. He was influenced at the time by Cubism, but perhaps to an even greater extent by naivism and primitive art. Bror Hjorth thought that he had mainly learned from his French teacher respect for the basic elements, volume and movement. As a painter, Bror Hjorth was a naivist to begin with, but as time went by, his work grew more naturalistic. He loved 3 colors, bright red, blue, and yellow. He often used black and white for a strong and clear contrast effect. The stamp shows the wooden sculpture A Girl's Head from 1922. It is carved out of one piece of fur, with some parts raw. The sculpture is 53 centimeters high and is privately owned in Sweden. Next we have have 5 different stamps. It's Technological Pioneers, tekniska nydanare, issued in October 9th, 1976. So here we have Lars Magnus Eriksson, founder of the telephone company LME. And a picture showing a telephone exchange that was used in the beginning of when telephone technology was young. And this must be Gustaf de Laval. No, sorry. This must be Sven Winkvist. Sven Winkvist, 1876 to 1953, was a constructor and founder of SKF. In Swedish, it stands for Swedish Bearing and Seal Manufacturing. Bearing, I think it's called. So this is an example of his work, and here you see some blueprints of some machines, technology. And here we have Gustaf de Laval, 1845 to 1913, and he was an inventor. Here you can see the stem turbine and a milk separator from his work. Here we have John Ericsson, 1803 to 1889. He was an inventor and constructor. And here's an example of his work, the marine propeller. And in the background, I guess, a landscape. This steam chimney. Not sure what's in this picture. Is it a boat here? Steamboat. And here we have Helge Palmkrantz, 1842 to 1880. Was a constructor and industrialist. And the picture here is showing a mower used for mowing fields before you had the hay dried in those constructions that we saw earlier in the stamp from Ångermanland. So these are printed in several colors. Three colors it looks like here. But I guess it's steel engraving. It looks like that. And on the cancellation we have some symbols. A torch here. And some crowns. 3 crowns for Sweden, probably. And this symbol, that must be caduceus. The 2 snakes here and the wand. I think it's it goes back to Greek myths, and Hermes had this type of herald's wand. And let's read something about these technological pioneers. You can see here some information, and Bahnbrecher der Technik. Bahnbrecher. Inventörsteknik. Tekniska nydanare. Technological innovators. John Ericsson, 1803 to 1889, achieved world fame after the Battle of Hampton Roads during the American Civil War. He was the builder of the Union ironclad Monitor, which defeated the similar Confederate man-of-war Merrimack. He is also known as a pioneer in the use of solar energy. Helge Palmkrantz, 1842 to 1880, was the leader of one of the biggest industries in Sweden in the 1870s in Stockholm. The factory produced a machine gun that became very desirable for the armies of Europe, and a hay mower, which rapidly became the most used one in Sweden. Lars Magnus Eriksson, 1846 to 1926, opened a precision workshop in 1876 in Stockholm for repairing telegraph appliances. His construction, the first desk telephone in 1877, was the start of the L.M. Ericsson Telephone Company, today a worldwide enterprise. Sven Wingqvist, 1876 to 1953, constructed the first spherical, self-regulating ball bearing, later produced by the Swedish ball bearing company SKF in Gothenburg, founded in 1907. Gustave de Laval, 1845 to 1930, achieved his fame as an inventor and an industrialist with a milk separator, patented in 1878. In 1888, de Laval patented the reaction turbine, which later was a widely used source of energy in industry. Yeah, this must be a steamboat. I can see that now. I guess the propellers are used especially in those types of boats. Next we have 2 stamps here, 85 öre and 1 crown. And it says arbetarskydd, means industrial welfare. And it's a picture of hands and cogwheels, symbols for the interplay man-machine. And here's some symbol of something, I'm not sure. Cogwheel here as well. Let's read. You can see here it was issued in October 9th, 1976. Arbeiterschutz. Protection des travailleurs. Industrial safety. There have been industrial safety regulations in Sweden since 1889, when the first law protecting workers was passed and the first labor inspectors were appointed. Today, the National Occupational Safety and Health Administration is responsible for industrial safety. The administration consists of two parts: the National Board of Occupation Safety and Health and the Labor Inspectorate. The board is to investigate different hazards on the factory floor and to formulate rules to avoid these hazards. The board is also responsible for the occupational health research. The inspectorate serves as arbiter for safety problems that cannot be solved within the factory. Its most important task is to try to solve these problems in cooperation with employers and employees. But when it is necessary, the inspectors can order improvements. This authority is set down in law. A great deal of the responsibility for the working environment rests with the employers. They must cooperate with the employees and their elected ombudsman, who can order cease work. If the work entails immediate and serious danger to the health, life and limb of the worker. The motif of the stamp is two hands against a background of two cog wheels. The fingers and the cogs join to symbolize the interplay between man and machine. Now let's move on to medieval book painting. We have 4 different motifs here. These two for 65 öre and these for 1 crown. And these were alternating printed in booklets. So you had maybe 2 of them and 2 of them in one booklet or something like that. And the same here. I don't know exactly why they show 2. Here they show 2 from a booklet, and here they show only 1 from a coil, probably. This one, some coil. This one in booklet. This one from coil. It's my guess. So if we start here, we have from a Flemish prayer book from around 1500. Archangel Michael destroying the dragon Lucifer. It's this scene here. And here, from also this Flemish prayer book, we have Saint Nicholas awakening 3 children from the dead. We need to take a closer look on these faces, I think. Let's see if we can find Saint Nicholas. Something red here is his clothes. Here, Saint Nicholas. And the 3 children awaken from the dead. 1, 2. Where's the third one? 1, 2. I guess it's that one, smaller than the others. Maybe the little sibling to the other 2. And he's holding a book or something in his hand. There. Book. And this walking stick or some type of stick. And here we should have Michael. The wings here. Can't find his face. Look at the sword here. Sword, arms. There must be his face. Very lightly painted. And what is he holding in his hands here? Yeah, it's wings, I guess. The other wing. And here's the dragon. Lucifer. Here you can see its mouth, its eye. And then we have the next motif from an Austrian prayer book about 1500 also. And this picture is showing Virgin Mary visiting Elizabeth in her castle, it looks like. And the second one is a prayer for Virgin Mary from a page of a book. This really old book. This this was difficult to locate. Yeah, here is Mary. Is she holding a book? Yeah, she's reading a book as well in one hand. And saying hi to Elizabeth. There. And this castle in the background, is that Mary's castle? She walked from there to Elizabeth's red castle. And I wonder if it's possible to read this. Yeah, it looks like it is. It's really good print. You can see the letters, but I'm not gonna read this text. Also, it's very difficult with this font, I think. It's in Latin, probably. But it's beautiful. At least it starts with the letter T, you can see here. It's a very large T. And on the cancellation, it's a symbol of a flower. I think this could be like a symbol for Mary somehow. The mystic rose, possibly. Now let's read a bit. After we have checking these basic facts. I hope the text says something about this symbol. I would like to know what it is. Mittelalterliche Buchmalerei. En luminör medieval medeltida bokmåleri. Medieval book illustrations. After the victory of Christianity, the most important task for the book artist was to impress the believers' respect for the contents of the holy books. The spiritual message was depicted in gold and magnificent colors. The golden age of book illustrations is the Middle Age. The motifs of the 1976 Christmas stamps. These were the Christmas stamps. I didn't realize that. Yeah, they were issued in November 17th. Have been taken from two late medieval manuscripts. The Archangel Michael and Saint Nicholas are from the Flemish prayer book from around 1500. Michael, the foremost of the archangels, records the deeds of mankind and weighs our souls on the judgment day. He was the guardian angel of Israel and has later been worshipped as the protector of pharmacists, merchants, painters, and soldiers. Here he is the warrior who defeats Lucifer, the adversary of God in the shape of a dragon. Saint Nicholas Bishop of Myra in the 4th century AD, is the patron saint of children, sailors, lawyers, and butchers, and he's a model for our Santa Claus. Yeah, Saint Nicolaus, of course. According to a late legend, he woke 3 children from the dead. They had been slaughtered and salted in a tub by a butcher. The miracle is depicted here. The other 2 motifs are from an Austrian prayer book from the late 15th century. They show Mary visiting Elizabeth and a text page with prayers to the Virgin Mary. On each envelope it's the Swedish Post emblem here, and it says Första dags brev, first day cover. And then we have 1 crown and 130 again. These quite common denominations, so my guess is that these were seen quite often as well, these 2 stamps. And the theme is Nobel Prize winners of 1916. So 60 years earlier. Like celebrating 60 years from those who got the Nobel Prize in 1916. Yeah, and also it's in November. Isn't like Nobel Prize in November, something like that. And here you can see Verner von Heidenstam, and he won the prize in literature. And in the background you see Omberg. A landscape, a mountain in Sweden, and the lake Vättern. I have shown you Vättern before in this video. It's the 2nd largest lake in Sweden. And Verner von Heidenstam was a poet and novelist. I guess this is a Nobel symbol for Nobel Prize. And I know he had written a book called The Swedes and Their Chieftains. It's like historical lectures in that book, so he was interested in history, Swedish history, I guess. Before I read the text, maybe I can show you Vättern again. Well, I'm not sure I have shown you Vättern. But here is Stockholm, here is Gothenburg, here is Gotland, that I showed you earlier. And Östergötland, yeah, I have been showing you Vadstena here. But yeah, here is Vättern. And Omberg, I think, is here. Let's see on a closer map. Showing Östergötland here. Here's Vadstena. And yeah, here is Omberg. So high, it's marked as a quite high mountain at yeah, just by the lake. Actually, here is another smaller map showing this area in detail. Vadstena, Vättern, and here's Ångermanland. It looks like there was a train station called Ångermanland as well. So Ångermanland is a mountain type called a horst. Yeah, that's the term for it, geological term for it. So it's something that is created. It has to do something with the ice age or something. But if a horst is created, this high mountain, then there are like valleys on the sides with a lower altitude. So it's like a typical landscape with a. I think it goes like this. Like if you look at it from the side, it's like the lower parts, and then the horst. It's like a plateau, very high mountain. And then it goes down again. So it's not like it's a lot of hills and you go up and down, up and down. I think you just go up and then it's a high plateau or something. Nobelpristagare 1916. Nobelpristräger. Lauréate du Prix Nobel de l'année 1916. Nobel Prize winner in 1916. The Swedish poet Verner von Heidenstam, 1859 to 1940, was the only Nobel Prize winner in 1916. The stamp shows his characteristic bird-like profile against a background of glittering water. Lake Vättern, which inspired much of Heidenstam's poetry. To be able to appreciate your own environment, it is necessary to have experienced a different one. And in Heidenstam's first book, Vallfart och vandringsår, Pilgrimage and Wonder Years, 1888, he pays homage to the Orient, with its bright colors and pagan lightheartedness. His lyrical poetry is difficult to appreciate except through the Swedish language. It reacted a peak of orchestral richness in dikter, that means poems, in 1895. His poetry underwent a transition to greater lucidity, a classical, quiet simplicity in the collection Nya dikter, New Poems, in 1915, which was the last book the poet published. His prose, on the other hand, is available in translation and understandable as well. Carolinerna, the Charlesmen, describes how the followers of King Charles XII attained moral greatness in defeat. To his countrymen, Heidenstam is best known as the writer of the poem that begins Sweden, 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 native country, which, in its musical setting by the Swede Wilhelm Stenhammar, has won the position as an unofficial national anthem. Sweden, 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 native country. I don't know that song. Sverige, 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 fosterland. I'm not sure I've heard it actually. Or maybe I have. I just don't know the title or something. And that was the last one. From 1976. I think there were 16 of them. And it was really fun to go through them in detail like this. You learn a lot about Sweden, even for me as a Swede. There's so much, I don't know, about the bird life, about history, technical history. And these are super interesting, the Vendel age and artists. Writers. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and maybe you can turn this into a series, and I will probably upload this quite soon also in audio format as an album in Spotify, Apple Music, and also as a podcast in podcast platforms. When it's an album, I usually split them into tracks, less than 10 minutes. But I think it's nice to have both options, both as music albums, even though it's not music, and podcasts. And yeah, if we make one episode for each year, we make a couple of years, then also it could be nice to do a compilation video that will be like 8 to 10 hours maybe, so you can have it, listen to it during the entire sleep, one night perhaps. I plan to do some type of compilation videos like that, because it's been requested, and I think it's yeah, it would be nice to try. So, thank you for watching and listening, and sleep well. Take care. Stay safe. See you soon.